What's up, my friend? Welcome into another edition of the Run It Back podcast. Hello to you all. Thanks so much for hanging out with us once again. Tyler Zulli, Frank Klose, back with another week of Phillies baseball. And for the first time in what seems like basically since opening week, there's a lot of optimism around the Phillies. Phillies are 7-1 since the firing of Rob Thompson, and 7-1, in fact, since the last time that we recorded because of the doubleheader. But things have gone extremely well for the Phillies over the last week since Frank and I spoke last. So first and foremost, Frank, a happy Wednesday to you. Good to be back with you once again, and much better circumstances to discuss than what happened last week.
Yeah, I feel like the week before last, we were saying, okay, the Phillies kind of leveled this out, and then they were just tanking, and then all of a sudden now they're just on fire. So this is a lot of whiplash here.
I guess it is a cautionary tale of the emotions of baseball. And I will say this, I do think it's fair for fans to have been emotional the way that the season started, because as I said to you like a few weeks ago, I wasn't necessarily all that concerned about the record per se, because as we talked about, it was late April. It was more about the way that they were playing. There was a lot of lethargy. There was a lot of lack of explosion with the team. And that was the part that concerned me. I don't know if it's directly correlated to the firing of Rob Thompson. It may be. It may also be directly correlated to the fact that they're not playing 13 straight games against two really good teams in the Braves and the Cubs. But there is certainly a different feel to this team over the last week than what we saw over the previous month prior to that.
Yeah, you know what? Looking at the Braves and the Cubs, I mean, the Braves are playing at a 7.03 clip so far this season. So that's really good, okay? And then the Cubs at a 6.67 clip. The only other team in that neighborhood are the Yankees right now, right? But those are the two clear best teams in the National League, at least so far. And so the Phillies, I mean, I think they kind of got a raw deal on the schedule to be able to face both of them back-to-back, 2 at home and 2 away. I mean, that is such a schedule anomaly if I've ever seen one, right, to play. Yeah, it was 3 against the Cubs at home, 3 against Atlanta at home, 4 against the Cubs on the road, and then 3 against Atlanta at home. That's just cruel.
Well, and I will say this, much like we talked about the Phillies, how they were not a team that was going to play 350 baseball for the entire season. The Cubs and Braves won't play 660 and 7 baseball for an entire season, because the reality is over the last 2 years, one team has played 600 ball for an entire season. That's it. And it's not the team you would expect. It was actually the Milwaukee Brewers last season. No other team has played 600 ball the entire way for the last 2 years. Now, the Dodgers won 100 games a couple of seasons ago, and there's been some 100-game winners over the last few years. But you're not going to win 60% of your games for an entire season. So it's an unfortunate circumstance that at that time as well, they also ran into teams that maybe if you play them in August, maybe you lose 2 of 3. You know, and I mean, like, you still may lose the series, but are you going to get swept consecutively for 4 straight series? Probably not.
And quite honestly, lots on them for losing all these games. I mean, you know, looking at how those games played out, they lose to the Braves by 2. They lose by 2. Then they lose by 4 to the Cubs. Again, I think that was one that maybe doesn't get out of hand. You know, if you're playing a little bit better, but lose by 3, lose by 5, lose by 1, lose by 2. They won that one game in Atlanta and then lost by 4. But you know, but a lot has changed. I will say. You had addition by addition and addition by subtraction at the same exact time, because Zach Wheeler came back, Taijuan Walker went out the door. And, you know, I gave Taijuan Walker a lot of credit last year. Last year was his best season of his 4 with the Phillies.
Yep.
This one was clearly the worst of his 4 with the Phillies.
So let's talk about the good, because as we said, they are 7-1 since April 28th when the Phillies fired Rob Thompson. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different stats in which the Phillies rank within the top 10, either offensively or defensively. And I know it's a small sample size. 8 games over 162 is a percentage point of a percentage point. But this is kind of where they're sitting. The offense has gotten better. Now, they explode for 9 last night. They pick up 8 of those 9 in the 7th and 8th innings off of Mark Leiter and off of Tyler Ferguson. I know a lot of that came against the bullpen. Severino, despite the fact that he threw 8,000 pitches in the first 2 innings, was actually fairly decent, settled in nicely, kind of got out of some tight spots. But within the top 10 this year, since that stretch, the Phillies are in the top 10 in average, hits, runs, slugging percentage, and OPS offensively. It's effectively every measurable offensive stat you can come up with. And then on the flip side, the pitching's been excellent as well. They are top 5 in team ERA, strikeouts, opponent slugging percentage, and hard hit percentage allowed. And that's not to even get into the starting pitching. I know, again, we were very down on them for the first couple of weeks. This was, without question, the best week of baseball they've put together, and it's not even close.
I mean, there was a lot of roster chaos in that, right? I mean, again, without Wheeler, I already mentioned
Sure.
Wheeler, and Wheeler coming back makes such a difference, even if it's just a mental lift. But think about all the people cycling through the bullpen. Like, I mean, you kind of thought that the bullpen was going to be set.
Yeah.
I mean, losing Duran, that's quite the domino effect to the rest of the bullpen. Jose Alvarado was all over the place for a while. Brad Keller was all over the place for a while. And they've seemed to find their groove as Duran comes back. I mean, things are just kind of coming together at the right time.
There was a Brad Keller outing in Miami. I don't remember if it was Friday or Saturday night that he came in to get the save, and he had no feel for his fastball whatsoever. And I'm sitting there watching it, and I go, okay, if I were the Marlins, I get what they're doing. They're being patient. They're being selective. And then they got to 2 strikes, and it looked like they were looking to walk. I mean, Stowers gets ejected. McCullough gets ejected. It was a weird scenario, and I know it's 1 of 162, but it stuck out in my mind as like, I know that Keller is not throwing strikes and you want to be selective, but you were almost looking like you were trying to win a Little League game where it's like, oh, we'll just walk and load the bases up. It was a weird scenario, and Keller gets out of it. And since then, I mean, I know Duran last night had a little bit of command issues on his first appearance back, but since then, the bullpen has been really good too.
Yeah. I mean, if they're all in their slots, by the way, Chase Sugar, you got to give this guy some credit,
Incredible.
man. He had a great season last year with Pittsburgh, and I thought he was a nice pickup at the time, and didn't make the opening day roster, which is mind blowing. And he's going to be a staple, I think, in this bullpen in that like 5th inning ish kind of role, or the guy that comes in extra innings and gets the win, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, he and Tim Mesa both have given the Phillies pockets of a lot of success that you really didn't expect. We talked about McCambly maybe making the team out of camp. As you said, Sugar didn't make the team right away. He said on the broadcast the other night he kind of used that as a little bit of fuel. But, the revolving door in the bullpen has been something they've had to overcome. And the last week or so they have, right? So you think about all the guys that they've used, just the up downs, right? The Seth Johnsons, the Alan Ron Hells, Trevor Richards. Who else am I missing? There's a bunch of guys that they've sent up and down.
The Backus, of course, been up and
Backus
down.
obviously being on the IL and being sent up and down. It's been a carousel of arms in the front end of the bullpen. And your closer, who probably is I think conservatively a top 5 closer in all of baseball, probably top 3, you could argue. It's Mason Miller and everybody else right now, but probably top 3 or 5 is fair. I mean, to weather that storm, and now you look at the numbers that they've posted over the last 8 games, I think there's reason to be optimistic. And I'm not saying they're going to win 7 of every 8, but there is absolutely reason to be optimistic. And as you brought up a few weeks ago, this is the pocket of the schedule to start stacking some W's against teams that you should be better than. And so far they have.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to just win 2 or 3. As I said, they need to sweep some series. And so thankfully the Phillies seem poised to actually sweep some of these series, because that's what they're going to need to do to make up for such a losing streak like that.
Sweep out the Giants on back-to-back walk-offs. Take 3 out of 4 to the Marlins. Win the first game of this series against the Athletics. And now you're looking at a real chance to win another series tonight. After a really dominating start from Christopher Sanchez. I thought his stuff was good. I thought his location was excellent, and the efficiency at which he pitched at the beginning of the start last night. I mean, you saw it on the broadcast. 9 pitches in the first, like 7 in the second. There was he had a couple of teen pitch counts as he got later into the game, but he was extremely efficient through the first basically 6 innings.
Yes, he was. So seeing him catch his group, and by the way, Aaron Nola also very good with
Nola
his
pitched great.
location.
And
Like,
Luzardo pitched really well in
yeah.
his last start as well. I mean, that's really 2 in a row for Luzardo now.
I mean, this is kind of what you expected when you thought of the Phillies rotation, right? I mean, going into last year, I said, oh, they're going to win 90 games by accident with that rotation. I kind of said the same thing going into this year. Now that they got off to a little bit of a rough start, and you throw Zach Wheeler in there, you're feeling a lot better about this right now, night to night.
So let's take a look at that starting rotation for a second. Again, using that sample size since Rob Thompson was fired, the starting rotation has thrown the most innings of any rotation in all of baseball, 47. They also have the best rotation ERA at 1.53. Their 57 strikeouts are the best. Their 31% strikeout rate is the best. They are the only starting rotation in all of baseball over that span to hold opponents' batting average to under 200. They're at 199. They have a 251 opponent OBP, which is best in baseball, and a 275 slug is only the New York Mets are better over that time. And they're only walking 5.4% of the batters, which is top 10. I mean, literally every metric that we've just laid out, they're effectively the best starting rotation in baseball the last week and a half. And I don't expect them to be first for the rest of the season. But as you said, this is the buoy of this team. When the offense goes into the ruts that it does, and it will happen again, it's just the type of team that they are, the starting rotation is supposed to be what carries them to a handful of 2-1, 3-2 type of wins before the offense kicks back into gear.
Absolutely the case. And so many of those games that they lost early on, I mean, how many of them were like 3-2? And then you just thought like, well, the offense should have given you more than that,
Sure.
right? So, and again, that's that. They're going to struggle against lefties. I mean, that has not magically disappeared, right? But yes, this pitching makes a difference. And again, the effects on the bullpen, because the bullpen doesn't pitch as many innings, and everybody is fresher and pitches better when they pitch. I mean, the effects of this rotation dominating it goes so far.
Yeah, I mean, at the time of the change at manager, the Phillies starting rotation. Now I know that they had a couple of openers, and I know that Taijuan Walker was making starts. The Phillies starting rotation had only had 31 more innings pitched than their bullpen. I mean, that, first of all, that is unsustainable. But second of all, that's a root cause of why you struggle. We gave a lot of flack to the offense, and rightfully so. They, as you said, struggling against lefties, not hitting with runners in scoring position. A lot of issues to be had. The starting rotation for a while was not helping cause, and they're starting to balance back. Now, they'll probably fall a little bit closer to somewhere in the middle, but I would expect them to be closer to what we've seen this week than what we saw through the first month of the season.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there, and that's even knowing that Zach Wheeler still remains a little bit of a wild card. I mean,
Sure.
he's looked decent enough so far. In fact, his velocity surprised me. I thought he would be a little tick below where he came in, but again, the minor league, as I was saying, is minor league ramp up was probably not that different from the spring training ramp up. So he kind of had to grow into the season, and it looked like this almost looks like this is business as usual for Zach Wheeler.
Well, it's kind of funny because I think one of the questions he got asked after his first start was like, were you like sandbagging out? And he's like, no, it's just different. He goes, you take the adrenaline kicks in, you take the mound on a major league field, you're just going to throw harder by sheer nature. My hope was that he'd sit 93, 94. He's been more 94, 95, especially early in starts. I really can't ask much more than that, especially early in his return. If he could consistently sit in that 94 range, I don't need him to get back to 96 or pump 9. He's the type of guy when he wants to, he could give you 97. But I think he sits more comfortably 94, maybe 95. And that's why he's been healthy for the most part up until this, we can kind of call it a freak instance, right? It wasn't an on-field injury. It was something that happened, quote unquote, off the field. But in his Phillies tenure, he's been one of the most durable starters in all of baseball. And I think a part of that is because he recognized as he's matured, he can live 94, 95 with good command, with good stuff. And he's going to be a better pitcher than he was him trying to throw 97 max effort for 75 or 80 pitches.
Yeah, that's why if I have one complaint about Major League Baseball right now, it's just so much emphasis on everybody throwing as fast as possible and less about pitching, right? It takes a lot to understand how one can pitch. Of course, the he's not going to be Jamie Moyer, the
Sure.
real soft tosser, but you know that there's something to be said to learn your craft, to know thyself and know thyself well. I think I'm quoting Socrates, but but uh but yeah, he's working with what he has, and he's got a good game plan.
And it's funny you bring up the just velocity demand, right? I look at Yuri Perez from the Marlins, and he's got really good stuff, heavy fastball. The changeup is like 3 or 4 miles an hour less than his fastball. Like sometimes you'll see it pop up and it's like 92-mile-an-hour changeup, and I'm like, why? Like that, it's just that's just a fastball at that. And I know when you go 97
Yeah.
to 92, the arm speed is the same. It looks different. It feels different. But my thought's always been if you're going to throw 97, if you get that changeup down to 89, it's almost like decrease your velocity and the pitch will have more effectiveness. I know that sounds insane to say, but I always look at a guy like that and I'm like, maybe take the foot off the pedal just a little bit.
Yeah, how many are gonna be sitting on that changeup just waiting for it?
Right.
That's a good speed to, get some nice exit velocity.
All right, so let's take a look at this offense a little bit. As we said, basically top 10 in pretty much every statistical category over the last 8 games or so. One guy in particular that is in his, he goes through these pockets because he's one of the best hitters on the planet, is in his seeing beach balls phase right now. And that is, of course, Bryce Harper. 2 home runs last night. I mean, really, when they were struggling, one of the few guys that was hitting the baseball well, continuing to see the ball well. I don't know if he's going to stay on a 35 home run pace that he finds himself at right now, but when Harper is seeing the ball like this, there's a reason as to why he is still considered a superstar. There's a reason as to why he is still one of the more feared hitters in all of baseball, because the way that he's seeing the baseball right now is kind of when he is going at his absolute best.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when he's on, he's on. I think that's and not even that is and even when he's got his drop off, I mean, he's not getting a lot of pitches to hit, right? So when he does, I mean, it's important that he connects, right? I mean, seeing pitches very well unless it's over Zach Gelof's head.
So he is now up to 286 on the year. He's driven in 23. I think that like I said, the home run total probably won't sit at 30. I think he's on pace for about 35 after the 2 that he had last night. But more importantly to me is that he's driving the ball gap to gap. And I think Harper is so good at using the whole field. I think he's just very good at taking pitches that are given to him. As you said, he doesn't get a lot of pitches to hit. But in the last 5 games alone, not only does he have the 3 home runs, but he has 3 doubles as well. He's got 6 extra base hits in the last 5 games. He's got 8 total hits in the last 5 games. And, I know that he's not facing, elite level pitching. Now, he did face Yuri Perez, but like the other day, who was it that was pitching for the Marlins just got DFA'd, in fact.
Oh, I missed that.
It was Chris Paddock, excuse me, he got DFA'd the other day. He wanted nothing to do with that start against the Phillies. He was dreadful. But you take advantage of bad pitching and you take advantage of when pitches are left up in the zone. Harper's done a really nice job. He's driving the ball with good exit velocity. I think he's barreled the ball up quite a few times over the last few weeks. Obviously you're hoping that your best hitter hits like your best hitter, but over the last, 2 weeks or so, I would say probably closer to the last 3 or 4 weeks, he has been your best hitter.
Yeah, absolutely, and it matters so much in this lineup right now because, again, behind him, they still haven't totally figured it out.
So the one guy behind him, not directly behind him, I know it's Garcia and Bohm and whatnot. The one guy that is a little bit further down the lineup that I did want to give a little bit of kudos to because I think he's starting to swing the bat a little bit better. I think his bat's been a little bit more on an even plane the last couple of weeks, is Bryson Stott. A home run last night, but I think to me with Stott, my approach to Bryson Stott has always been this. I know that they're probably not going to have him play much against left-handed pitching. It's the same thing with Brandon Marsh. But with Bryson Stott, and Brandon Marsh, by the way, we'll get to in just a little bit because he's swinging a good bat too. With Bryson Stott, my thought with him is when he's on, I want him hitting well with 2 strikes. I want him taking the ball the other way. I don't need him to, deposit a moonshot the way that he did last night against Tyler Ferguson in the 8th inning. But, to me, it's the guy that is difficult to beat unless you're beating him with fastball up in the zone. He's good against breaking balls. He's good against stuff down and away. He's good against righties who are going to try to pepper the outer corner against him. I don't need him to be a 300 hitter, but the guy that I've watched the last couple of weeks has been significantly better than the guy that we watched the first couple of weeks.
And I didn't know how to explain the first few weeks of him either, because it looked like in spring training he was locked in and making that contact, kind of like how you're just describing him right now. And I think though long term though, when we talk about this roster construction, it's a shame, but you can't really count on him anymore. I think
I think that's fair.
His highs and lows are just too much, and so when he's on, he's on. And so I would be looking for that long-term solution at second base. I don't want them to make the same mistake, I suppose, they made with Alec Boehm and keep him till the end of the contract, because he'll be going into his contract year next year. So I think they should try to figure out second base on the long term, and ideally somebody that can play every day.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with you. I think that they're like Bryson Stott, while I just gave him a lot of praise for the way that he's swinging the bat, the value of Bryson Stott inherently comes defensively. I do believe, we've talked about this before, I do believe he is one of maybe 2 or 3 best defensive second basemen in baseball. I mean, it's when you think about the National League, I think about him and Nico Horner.
Yep.
Like those are the 2 best defense, and Bryce Turang is probably 3rd. The defense will always be there. When I did a video the other day about the Phillies DRS and how it's like a minus $1 billion, basically. I look at them and I go, okay, they're bad. They're below average. And there's some spots like Justin Crawford has not been good in center field this year. I don't expect most of your, I don't expect Trey Turner's had a decline in defense, but I look at Bryson Stott and I look at Adolis Garcia and I go, okay, they're maybe not as good as they've been in the past, but those guys aren't negative defenders, in my opinion. So I don't know exactly like what goes into DRS calculations, but they were so far behind the A's, who were 29th. The A's were -7. The Phillies were -27.
Yes.
And I look at it and I go, listen, the Phillies defense has been bad. I don't know if they're -27 bad.
And by the way, you notice who had the highest DRS on the Phillies?
The highest DRS on the is it Marsh?
Nope.
Is it Harper?
No.
Oh God, is it Alec Boehm?
Rafael Marchand.
Oh, really?
4. Yep. Imagine.
Got a lot of problems with Rafael Marchand's offense this year.
Yes, but I mean, he's providing value.
But you know what I mean? It kind of tells you that I think it's a great tool. I think it's a good storyteller. But I think when it comes to the outliers, them specifically at the very, very bottom, again, I know that they've been bad defensively, but I don't know if they're this bad. But to get it back to Bryson Stott, he's not a negative defender. He's an excellent defender. It's the same thing with Adolis Garcia. I watch Adolis Garcia throw frozen ropes to third base and home plate on basically the daily basis. And I watch him make plays and I go, okay, you made that look routine. Last year, that's a base hit. Something doesn't add up in that sense. Now, again, I'm not going to excuse how bad their defense has been as a team, but I don't think they're this bad.
No, I agree with you there. And I think they're going to be better. I mean, I think it's one of these things where you see it all the time. Their offense carries into the field, right? So a lot of them were scuffling at the plate, not winning games. You try to do too much in every single play. I think part of this is just the human nature of the game. The things that those numbers can't explain, right? That you're having a bad day, you're having a bad season, you're suing your parents. I mean, I mean, if we're being honest, it's kind of hard to separate those things from the game sometimes. So,
I'm sure.
So I think they're playing under their ability for sure up to in the beginning, but they're looking a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a human element of professional sports that is almost expected to be removed, which is not fair to human beings, right? Like the rest of us have regular jobs. And while we are still expected, now I'm gonna take the extremes away. The like bereavement and things like that. I'm gonna take the extreme away. But we all go through things in life, right? Maybe your girlfriend broke up with you. Maybe you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay the bills, right? Like we all go through things in life. There is an expectation. I don't know if it's because these guys make a lot of money. I don't know if it's because they're getting paid to play a kid's game. I don't know what it is, but there is an expectation of almost like check your humanity at the door and go play baseball, which I will say I don't know if is entirely fair. Like, do I think Alec Boehm is playing well? Absolutely not. Do I think Alec Boehm is going to hit even maybe 220 this year? I don't even know if he gets to that. But I do think that there is a part of it where we sit here and go, I don't know how it feels to have to take your parents to court. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I had to turn around and sue my dad, like, I probably would not be nearly as sharp as I am, doing my job. So I do think that there's a human element to it that is tough to ignore when it's that serious.
And speaking of the human element, sorry if I'm jumping the gun here, but did you see Bryce Harper's comments about waiting for the manager to be fired?
Yeah, it was strange. It was like like they felt like it was a foregone conclusion, which is weird for a guy that they have loved as much as Rob Thompson. Now, again, it's a job, and if you're underperforming at your job, you might get let go. But I do think that it was one of those things where they were just waiting for the weight to come off their shoulders before that they were going to turn things around. As a veteran group, I almost am surprised at that comment because I do think that they realized the gravity of getting their managers, especially somebody who A, they loved, B, they won with, and C, was an absolute have their back, throw himself under the bus guy to keep them from taking scrutiny. I am a little bit surprised to hear him say, yeah, we were pretty much just waiting on it.
Yeah, I didn't like that quote. I thought he should have taken a more leader type approach, saying, "Hey, we don't need to listen to that noise. It's on me." As someone in the clubhouse who's a veteran, who's blah 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 blah. Right? I think there should have been a spin on that. But in his defense, though, overall, again, I don't like that he said that. But overall, in his defense, Dave Dombrowski did send some of his scouts into the clubhouse and walking around the dugout. I mean, that's bizarre. I mean, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it was there was a writing on the wall. Like, there's no doubt about it, and I have to believe Rob Thompson probably knew it. Like we talked about it the other week, where it felt to me like this was probably it for Rob Thompson this season anyway. But it did catch up to them more quickly than I thought because I don't think anybody expected this poor of a start. Where again, 10 games under is bad, but the way that you were performing was, that could have spiraled to 15 under, by the end of April if you didn't turn the corner. It could have gotten really bad really quickly. So I get that they needed a change and I get that they needed a new voice. It did feel like it was a, slow march to walk the plank, if you will.
Yeah, in fact, even the fact that Dave Dombrowski went on that road trip, you knew something was up. I mean, the
Sure.
GM or president of baseball operations doesn't often just routinely go on road trips like that, So the fact that he was hanging around too, I mean, I suppose there was that cloud hanging over everybody. So, but overall, even if that's the case, I would have thought that Bryce said something a little different there.
Yeah, I think it was a weird comment for sure. Because I think, as you said, I think it could have just been one of those, hey, we didn't play well. And the unfortunate nature of the industry is when your team doesn't play well, sometimes coaches lose their jobs. We really hate it. We love Rob. We respect Rob. It was a weird way he went about it. Even though we all kind of expected Rob Thompson to be fired at some point soon, the way that.
But again, talking about the human element of the game, right? He just says, "Hey, yeah, it's like we need to get over this hump and get through this." So I mean, so it was weighing on them. So maybe it became a self-fulfilling prophecy that they weren't playing well because that they were feeling this way.
So I think we've kind of touched on a lot of the good. And I think that this has been a really shining pocket of the season in which really started out a little bit sluggish. Now, the one thing I do want to ask you about this success, how much do you believe in the new voice theory of like Don Mattingly takes over and they immediately go on this, 7 out of 8 stretch. How much of that is an invigorated clubhouse? How much of that is a new voice? And how much of that do you believe is just this is a team that was playing below its standards and is now being able to catch up a little bit and play some teams that they should beat?
Yeah, I don't think this changes a whole lot. I mean, look at the lineups; they're pretty much the same. I mean, he's. I know people were focusing on certain drills that Rob Thompson also did that all of a sudden Don Mattingly was getting credit for. So, yeah, of course, you're gonna have a different guy. If you have a different guy there, they're going to do things a little bit differently. I mean, even when they were, people I work with, yeah, maybe when it's not my responsibility, things go as planned. But then when it becomes my responsibility, then yeah, I might do it a little bit differently. But I think this is a situation where uh, it's just the timing helped, right? It's not like he got fired before a Cubs in Atlanta Super Series, right?
Right.
This was as they were getting out of that and going to face the Giants, who were also scuffling, right? And the Marlins, who are a sub 500 team, right? So I think that this doesn't change a lot in terms of how they're going about the game, other than just the mental reset, and it only lasts for a while. And they're gonna have to still play. They're still going to have to win games and still keep their foot on the accelerator. If this makes them feel like that they're now that the distraction is gone now, as Harper says, all right, fine, but that's only going to last for so long.
Listen, they're going to have a stretch later in the season at some point. I don't know if it's in late May or June or after the All-Star break. There's going to be a pocket of the season where they lose 4 or 5, maybe 6 games in a row, right? Like it's just how baseball operates. It's how do you respond from there? Let's say they lose 4 or 5 in a row. They lose 2 back-to-back series, they get swept and they lose 2 out of 3, maybe a road trip or whatever it is. How do you respond from there? Because the response, to me, is part of the reason as to why they lost 12 in a row or 10 in a row. Part of the reason as to why Rob Thompson was fired was because everything compounded in on itself, and they were almost creating ways to lose in that stretch of games. So, if you lose 4 in a row, I'm not saying, hey, you got to immediately go win 4 in a row. But after you lose 4 in a row, can you take a series? Can you win 2 out of 3? Can you maybe have to, hey, you had a tough stretch at home. Can you go on the road and beat a team 2 out of 3 games to kind of to right the ship and rectify things a little bit? That's how teams respond, in my opinion. It's not how the Phillies responded early in the season. It certainly wasn't how the Mets responded early in the season. And it's why we were talking about those like historic numbers of there's only been 4 teams ever to make the playoffs after losing 10 in a row. It's how you respond from here will be the deciding factor of how good this team can be, because roster construction, like, yes, they're getting older. Yes, they have fundamental flaws. Yes, we know what their issues have been in the postseason. It's still a good team that has wildly underperformed up until this point. Now, my question is, if you do have another pocket of lack of success, how do you bounce back quickly?
Well, I think it's a lot easier right now because Phillies would be scuffling, and it was kind of like, oh, Taijuan Walker's starting. He's not pitching that well. Whatever we would get, I mean, now I suppose the weak spot, if you want to call it that, in the rotation is just because of his inexperience, Andrew Painter. I mean, I think that you feel what I think is the practical answer, that on any given day, whoever takes the ball is going to give you a shot.
Yeah.
I think when you get into your head like, oh man, our bullpen's tagged. Taijuan's good. You see people coming in and out of the clubhouse. I think it sends a whole nother mood that makes you kind of lean into the, oh man, we're screwed kind of mentality. But
Sure.
I don't think that if everybody's healthy and everybody's in this rotation, you're going to have that problem anymore.
So 2 more with the A's to wrap up this series at home. Phillies have won 7 of their last 8. They'll look to take another series tonight, which would then mark 3 series victories in a row for the Phillies, Giants, Marlins, and the Athletics. And we will be back to talk more about this series and the weekend series coming up next week on the Run It Back podcast. Before we get out of here, Frank, anything else we need to get into?
Well, I just want to say, I mean, time for Felix Reyes to go play every day at AAA. Get Stuart Baroa up. I mean, I know that's just giving you a backup center fielder, which they clearly needed with their nice Stubbs and Garcia and center outfield arrangement last week. But I think that's just the one little tweak I would make right now. Get the bench switch hitter who can play center field on this roster, and then get Reyes some playing time, because they're going to break him by not playing him.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation where you're called up, you're expected to contribute, but you're also expected to only play against one side of the plate. I know the Chris Sale home run was a really awesome start to his career, and the power is clearly there. I think he is a good hitter, and I don't believe that will change in the near future. But I do agree with you. I would like to see, if he's not going to play, and he's not going to compete, I would like to see him get everyday at bats.
But that's a minor complaint at this point, and so and they'll have to carry three. By the way, they'll have to carry three catchers for a while until you're sure JT can handle the workload. So
sure.
So I think you're stuck with that. Therefore, I want to see Burrow up.
All right, so that'll just about do it for us here on the Run It Back podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. And, of course, if you have not subscribed already, subscribe to the channel as well. If you're listening on any of the audio-only platforms, you can drop a 5-star review if you like what you hear. Let us know in the comments what you think about this recent run of success from the Phillies. So, for my partner over here, Frank Klose, I'm Tyler Zulli saying thanks so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back next Wednesday with the next edition of the Run It Back podcast. Until then, see ya.